Do you have questions concerning planning a Disney trip? Ask them live on the show or submit them on our website at patmdisneytravel.wixsite.com/planning. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Matt with the DPI podcast. We have a great show tonight. We've got This Week in Disney News. We've got a new top 3, and we are continuing our Lorcana experimentation, whatever we want to call it, as we learn how to play the game and check out some of this cool artwork on these cards. So we have the first starter deck from Series 1 that we're going to crack into tonight, and Peter and I are going to play a little bit on stream, just kind of getting the basics and that kind of stuff. So stick with us. Like I said, going to be a fun show. I'll be back in about a minute. Hi, I'm Matt. Welcome to Disney Planning Insights. Through creative content and live shows, we explain the hidden details of the Disney experience so that there's going to be all kinds of chaos on tonight's show. So just stick with this. It's going to change screens and all kinds of stuff. So it's kind of crazy. Intro hit the wrong button because I've got my Stream Deck on the other side now. So just hang with me a bit. It's not that bad. We'll get to the right screen here in about 10 seconds, I think. There it is. So what's going on? No, like I said earlier, Matt with the DPI podcast, we've got a great show tonight. Peter with Princesses and the Mouse Disney Travel is heading back from somewhere. He had a prior engagement, but he said he should be here about 7:20. So we're going to jump into the news real quick, get through a top 3, and then we've got Lorcana again tonight, where we're going to get into a little bit of the gameplay and the setup and that kind of stuff. So it's going to be kind of fun. If you haven't been here before, thanks for joining us. Definitely hit that like and subscribe button down below. And if you want to check out some of our other social media accounts, down there at the bottom right now, boop, 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 right there, at DPI Podcast over on Facebook, at Disney Insights on Twitter are the two important ones. So we got a lot going on tonight. We've got a lot going on the channel. So right now, we are doing basically a pack opening of Lorcana cards now through Christmas. We started that last week after we did the first Lorcana episode on the live show. We're also going to be splitting out these Lorcana segments into their own little playlist on the YouTube channel as well. So if you're interested in just the Lorcana content, you can go over to our YouTube page and just look up Matt's Lorcana Journey, and you'll find all of that content there. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that. With that being said, if you do listen on Spotify, I'm sorry, Spotify has kind of changed how you have to upload things. It takes a little bit more time, and I just haven't had the time to get around to uploading as quick as I want to. So over the break, we're going to be taking about a 2-week break. Over the break, I'm going to try and get everything else up for you guys that hasn't already been posted. So basically everything from November and December, I'll try and get up before the second week of January when we come back for the show. We will be taking the next couple of weeks off for Christmas and New Year's, and then my company's corporate event. So we will be back on January the 9th will be our next episode. With that being said, sometime during the break, Peter and I are going to get together and we are going to do some playthroughs of Lorcana. And whether we do those live or if we just do them taped and then kind of break them apart and have conversations about that stuff. We haven't figured that out yet, but we're going to figure that out as we kind of go. So definitely stay tuned for that as well. Again, I am coming from scratch basically on this, other than holding like playing cards in my hands. I do not have a great grasp on this type of gaming, so it's been a lot of fun to kind of get into the cards and look at the cards and see a lot of what's going on. So, still kind of waiting for him real quick. I'm going to go ahead and get into a little bit of news while he's away. That way, when we get going, we can just kind of get going. So, if you want to check out the news that we think is the most important, go over to our Twitter page at Disney Insights. That is where you're going to find kind of our commentary on the weekend news as it's going on. You know, we have a lot of trusted accounts that we interact with, that we repost stuff from them. We talk to them back and forth about different things. And we don't try and put up a bunch of crap news articles. You know, if it's something that's important, we're going to put it up. If it's something that isn't that important, we're probably not putting it up. So, yeah. Looks like Peter is over on the other screen. Just give me a thumbs up when you're ready to go. That was a whole lot of... that was like the Matrix and all kinds of stuff on my side. So, he's getting everything set up right now. As soon as he gives me the thumbs up, we'll go ahead and get into the news. There's a thumbs up. I like it. He's ready to go already. So let me throw this back up over here. And let me go new split there. All right, Mr. Salvadori, how you doing tonight?
Good. Busy day, busy day.
I hear you, man. I hear you. We've had a couple of sick kids and Christmas coming up, and yeah, and still working through the holidays. So, nope, I completely understand that sentiment. So let's talk a little bit about the news. And I'm going to go ahead and get the timer up so we can just get going on it. Okay, so news. Like 3 or 4 really, really big things. Disney Treasure is now into the finishing stages. So we got to see a cool thing about how they put the ships together at D23. And it's kind of like a bunch of Legos. They're in blocks. And they put these blocks together and they weld them together and all this kind of stuff. Well, the last block of the treasure has been put together now. So now it is completely doing all of the interior and the finish work and all that kind of stuff on the boat. This is a boat that's going to be ready in 2025. So it's still got about a year of work. But getting that last piece in there is a huge deal.
Well, that means, so if you remember that panel that we went to, that means that it will leave the assembly in Germany very soon and make its way to the 2 other locations where it gets all of its furnishing and all of the other stuff. So, yeah, it was really cool to see, like, they assemble this part and then they bring it out, and then they assemble this part and then bring it out, and then they bring all of the pieces in and weld them all together. And so, yeah, it is a singular unit, which is
yes, it's a boat now. So let's move over to Disney World. Disney World files multiple lawsuits contesting property taxes. This is in kind of conjunction with everything that's going on with the Central Florida Tourism District and all that kind of stuff. They're just playing a legal game right now, and the only losers in this legal game are the park goers. Exactly. So, this is something, okay, we're going to stay in Orlando, and this is something that I kind of speculated when I got back from the Paris trip. Dronezios, the French company behind the drone show at Disneyland Paris, just opened a new office in Orlando, Florida.
Oh.
It's something. As soon as we came back and after we saw this, our thoughts went to Epcot right away. But in talking,
Animal Kingdom,
Animal Kingdom makes a ton of sense.
Make a nighttime show that won't scare the animals.
Yeah,
a drone show could do so much.
Yep. So, first production will be a holiday show in downtown Orlando with long-term development goals in this new market. They've got 7 theme parks. They've got plenty of places to go there.
Soon to be no, right now it's 8 theme parks if you count SeaWorld and Busch Gardens, and then Epic Universe is coming.
Yeah.
You've got water parks. Disney's got 2 of them. Universal's got 1 of them.
Yeah, they've got so much potential to just, I mean, all kinds of different size shows. They can do stuff for the city of Orlando. I mean, it just makes a lot of sense. Marvel fires Jonathan Majors.
Yeah.
Beat on your wife, you can't be Kang anymore.
That's so weird.
Yeah. But I like how they waited for the guilty verdict on that, but when it came to firing people in The Mandalorian, you said something on Twitter.
Yeah. R.I.P. Or like Johnny Depp in the Pirates franchise. Like, they destroyed that franchise because another one was coming, and they were like, oh, but Amber Heard said some stuff.
Yep. Hey,
Walt
just goes to show
who
who are you? I mean, who are you in relation to Disney? And that's kind of how it goes. Okay, travel agent hat on. So we have now these good to go days at Walt Disney World. Let's talk a little bit about that. So kind of give what they're going to be and how they're going to work.
In terms of, so first of all, let's back up. Starting in January 9th, 2 important things are going to happen park goer wise. If you have a date-based ticket or are staying as part of a vacation package at Disney World or a Disney World Good Neighbor Hotel, you will no longer have to book park reservations. So that's thing 1. Thing 2 is that park hopping restrictions beginning at 2 p.m. will no longer be a thing come January 9th, meaning even if you have to get a park reservation because you don't fit into those categories, aka if you're a pass holder or a military member, because military members need to buy these generic tickets. Anyway, you can scan into your original park and then you can immediately choose to leave, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. Then are creating because as it sits right now, after January 9th, annual pass holders will still have to make park reservations, even if they have a Disney World owned or Good Neighbor hotel reservation. They will still have to make park reservations after January 9th.
Okay.
But these good to go days are going to be, you don't need a park reservation, because here's the issue with park reservations. If you don't have, on the annual pass holder side, if you don't have a linked Disney resort reservation, you are allowed to have up to 5 on your account at a time.
Okay.
And so let's say I want to go twice this month and twice next month, but I also already know that I'm going to be going 3 times that following. Like, you have to wait until you use your park reservations to then be able to make more, which is a gigantic pain in the butt. So these good to go days are going to be released by Disney, and ultimately what it means is a pass holder can just go on those days without a park reservation. So now it doesn't have to count against my 5 that I get to keep on my account. So now if my days that I know that I'm going are on good to go days, I can get my reservations on days that are not good to go days. In addition to that, Disney has already started on the pass holder side. After 2 p.m., pass holders can go to a park without a reservation, except for Magic Kingdom on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah.
So just little nuances to the reservation system where basically Disney acknowledges that the parks aren't going to be very busy these days, so if you come, our staffing is going to be fine regardless.
There you go. There you go. So with this change, what does this do to the virtual queue system?
Yeah, well, that's the big thing in general. Starting on January 9th, the virtual queue system is going to be open to anybody with valid admission. So on the Magic Kingdom side and the Epcot side, you will no longer, like right now, your app only lets you into a virtual queue at 7 a.m. if you have a valid park reservation attached to it. But beginning January 9th, that will no longer be the case. You could be planning to go to Animal Kingdom, but wake up at 7 a.m. and join the virtual queue at Guardians over at Epcot, and then there is no way in hell that you will be able to get both, because by the time you grab Guardians, Tron's going to be gone, and vice versa.
Yeah.
But hypothetically, what you could then do is you could, depending on your return, like whatever your virtual group is, you could absolutely be in the other park at 1 o'clock and grab that drop the second it hits, versus right now where you gotta hope. Like we were able to do this last time. We were in Hollywood Studios on Saturday, but we left Hollywood Studios at 1 p.m. We were sitting outside of Epcot at 1:30, and at 1:45 we scanned our bands, got into the park, and grabbed a virtual queue for Guardians, and we ended up riding Guardians about an hour before the park closed. So kind of perfect. Then on Saturday, we started in, or sorry, that was Friday. Saturday, we started in Hollywood Studios. We didn't get to Magic Kingdom until 7:15, and we got a Tron virtual queue because
well, that's like, that's like the night we went on our trip.
It was a crap. No, that was like 4-ish when we were 4:30-ish when we were able to grab it. This was 7:15 because, oh my God, it rained all day, but we just warriored right through it. We didn't have ponchos, we didn't have umbrellas. We just said, screw it, let's just go have a great time. We got back to our room in just a straight up downpour, just like trudging, puddles and shoes. We went to Magic Kingdom from 7:15 to 11 p.m. We left at like 10:30, actually. We didn't even wait all the way to park close. We decided to get on a bus a little bit early. We went from 7:15 to 10. We rode like 8 rides, got a virtual queue, and even took a break and watched just the fireworks portion of Happily Ever After. Like it was.
I'm surprised they still put Happily Ever After up because, man, we watched the bowl game that was in Orlando, and in the first half of the bowl game, they put a statistic up that they had gotten almost 1.5 inches of rain in the first half of the game.
Yeah. Well, I was in the parks.
I was thinking about you. I was like, well, he had kind of talked about maybe doing Jollywood Nights tonight, and then that got canceled.
That got canceled.
Yeah.
Yep. Jollywood Nights on Saturday night got straight up canceled. Yep. That was, though.
Okay.
It was really good, though. Oh, I did find out something. This was very, very interesting, and we have talked about this before.
Okay.
I spoke with a cast member while we were working our way around Epcot World Showcase. I ended up sitting next to a group of 4 mid-20-year-olds. One of them was a cast member, and I brought up the virtual queue of Guardians, and they said, so I'm not even going to identify whether it was a boy or a girl in the group. They said that because they actually work for the ride company, so the company that like works in tandem with Disney, so they're technically a cast member, but they technically work for the ride company that's in charge of maintenance and observation and all that stuff of the rides. They said that they will not be getting rid of the Guardians of the Galaxy virtual queue anytime soon. Here is why. because Epcot doesn't have enough attractions, and the DAS is so out of control right now that the Guardians standby line would be projected to have a 4 to 5 hour wait because of all the people that would just be getting DAS passes over and over and over again.
Ah.
So until they change the DAS system to only allow something like one ride per day.
Yeah.
Which I think is totally reasonable, by the way. Like,
yeah. I think that's how Paris is their actual DAS pass is like a priority card, and you can only ride each attraction once.
Right. So until that happens, they only really have two options. They have the option of grossly inflating the wait time to deter DAS users / make DAS users wait a really, really long time, which is a bit dishonest, or change the whole functionality of the DAS system. Otherwise, like, they're terrified to pull Guardians off of DAS. Because you even look at, like, what's happening with Remy. Like, Remy the other day had, like, 160-minute wait.
Wow.
On Sunday. Because we went up there, and the lightning lane was out of the gate, backed up to the fountain with people waiting to scan in to then go wait in the DAS or the lightning lane line, which is where all those DAS go. And it then would have taken, and they run it the way they have to run it because many of those people in the line are the paid lightning lane people.
Yeah.
So that they got to run like a
10 to 1.
Yeah, it's like a 30-to-5 ratio that they run.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the standby line was out the door and queued around all those little
Jeez.
Outside,
Yeah.
and it was posted 150-minute wait.
So real quick, let's finish up on this discussion real quick. So virtual queue at 1 p.m. You will have to be in the parks to do at either park. So make sure that you're doing that. 15 minutes is up, but I do want to
I got one more. It just announced today. Maybe you
Yeah.
haven't seen it because I figured when you were staying in Orlando, the Little Mermaid musical adventure,
Yes.
a brand new redesigned show, will be taking over its building, its empty building that has been sitting vacant for several years, in 2024. That was announced earlier today.
Yep.
That has to make the news section. It's very, very exciting.
It was the last thing I wanted to talk about.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
My daughter was literally pointing at that building the other day going, "Daddy, what's in there?" I was like, "Mold."
Yeah. Well,
So-
and that was the speculation, was something had happened, and that's why the show hadn't come back. But yeah, Little Mermaid, a musical adventure, reimagined theatrical production, inspired by Walt Disney Animation Studios. The Little Mermaid will debut in newly refreshed Animation Courtyard Theater at Disney's Hollywood Studios in fall of 2024. So next fall. Now, one thing,
whole area needs fixed.
so I heard a
the
great
meet and greet.
I heard a great thing. With this coming back, Animation Courtyard is now all animation except for Star Wars Launch Bay. What if they made Launch Bay dedicated to all of the Star Wars animated features? You've got Galaxy's Edge for everything else. And then you could showcase the art and characters from, New Republic and all that kind of stuff in Launch Bay.
What if you just rip Star Wars Launch Bay out of Launch Bay and build a building over near Galaxy's Edge and then do something better with that building?
Yeah. or you could do that. Or you could do that.
Like, why do I have Star Tours and then I go past Muppet Courtyard and then I go into Batuu, but I have to go over by Toy Story and Mickey and Minnie Runaway Railway to meet Chewbacca and Darth Vader and look at memorabilia? Why don't we just bring Muppet Courtyard over to Animation Courtyard and put Launch Bay over? I'm just saying. If I'm in charge of top 3, what would you do to Hollywood Studios?
It's on our list. But
Number one, why the hell are there 3 different Star Wars areas in Hollywood Studios?
All right. Speaking of top 3, let's go ahead and let's get into it. Business trip.
Do the people move around?
It does tingle a little bit. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Matt with the DPI podcast. Over on the other screen is Peter with Princesses and the Mouse Disney Travel, and we are getting ready for tonight's top 3. If you've been here before, welcome back. If this is your first time, welcome. Hit that like and subscribe button. We're going to have a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun. This is episode number... We're coming up on number 50 here of the top 3s, which is pretty cool. So what we do is we take a chip out of this bag, I match it up with a spreadsheet, and we have about 25 seconds or so to come up with our top 3. And for tonight, it is going to be for number 5. I don't have the automatic focus on. I'm saving some battery tonight because I figure it's going to be a long one. This is close. This is close. Top 3 ideas for a 5th gate at Walt Disney World.
Thinking about taking a trip to Disneyland, Disney World, maybe a Disney cruise, or one of the other amazing Disney destinations? Contact me at Princess of the Mouse, and I'd love to work with you on your itinerary to the most magical places in the world.
You can contact Princesses and the Mouse Disney Travel on Facebook at PATM Disney Travel. All right, we're back. It is top 3 tonight, and our top 3 idea is ideas for a 5th gate at Walt Disney World. Now, you would think there's not too many out there, but I came up with like 5 really, really quick. So
I got laser focused on like one concept that I was trying to like hash out in my mind. So I actually have none. So I just jotted 2 down while you did that little intro there. But why don't you go first? And if you have 5, well, actually, yeah, we'll just see what happens. We'll just see what happens. So,
all right.
Yeah.
So my number 3 idea for a 5th gate in Orlando would be, let's take the park replicas that we've done with like Land and Disneyland Paris and that kind of stuff, and let's do a Tokyo Sea Disney replica in Orlando. This is a great park in the Tokyo park, and basically the concept of the park is you have these ports, and each port is dedicated to one concept of Disney Disney lore. So you've got like your Pirates Court or Cove and all that kind of stuff, and it really has a great layout because the hub and spoke layout is basically like a central island, and then all of your ports are around that central island. So it still follows that master plan design, but just in a very, very different way. Orlando's on swamp. It's very easy to let the water come back in and have this type of concept to where you have the ability to boat from place to place and still walk around the bridges and that kind of stuff. So my number 3 idea is let's do like a clone park of Tokyo Sea Disney. Peter, what is your number 3 for this?
Yeah, you and I were kind of talking about this just a minute ago, but in many of, excuse me, this was the idea that I was trying to hash out, and I'm still gonna try and hash this out. But when you think about the 4 parks, like they all do a job, right? Like Magic Kingdom is focused on fantasy.
Yeah.
And adventure, right? And Epcot is focused on the world and connecting with it. And Hollywood Studios is a celebration of the film company itself. And Animal Kingdom, of course, is a focus on nature and conservation. And maybe Animal Kingdom and Epcot kind of step on each other's toes just a little bit in that regard. And so I am trying, by my number 1, I am trying to hash out like what could be a fifth thing that a park celebrates? So right now, I am going to go with my number 3. I would like to see a park that is villain based.
Okay.
Like the whole park, because you could go into all of the different levels of the company, and you could then go, okay, so we're going to have half of the park is going to be your Disney villains, and then a quarter of the park is going to be your Star Wars villains, and a quarter of the park is going to be your Marvel villains. And so you could really go in there and you could explore all these different things. And it doesn't have to be scary, and it doesn't have to be spooky, because the truth of the matter is lots of people love Maleficent and Ursula and Gaston and Lady Tremaine and Wicked Stepmother and Darth Vader. And do you see where I'm going? Like, you could absolutely like have a Galaxy's Edge, but instead of just having the 2 rides are all about the Resistance, right? So these would be all about like the Empire's success.
Yeah, like a TIE fighter simulator where you're shooting down.
So there's a board game called Disney Villainous, and that Disney Villainous also has a Marvel version and a Star Wars version. And the entire premise of the game, which is why it's so wildly popular, is that you take over a villain and you have to go achieve the villain's goal. Like, for example, Cruella de Vil, you have to capture 101 puppies. And Hook, you need to bring Peter Pan to the Jolly Roger and defeat him. And I'm just thinking along those lines, like almost an alternate timeline where the villains have succeeded in their goals.
Yeah.
And, you know, like
Biff's future in Back to the Future.
Yeah. Biff Land. Yeah. Like Sorcerers of Magic Kingdom was all about the villains not taking over Magic Kingdom. Well, what if you make a park that's like the villains did take over Magic Kingdom?
Yeah. No, I like it. I like it. Villains was one of the ideas that I had. I was going to go a much different route with it, but villains was one of the ideas that I had. So, okay, let's get into our number 2s. Whoa. What did we do here? There we go. I hit like 2 buttons at the same time. I have like fat fingers and they're on the wrong side today. It's weird. Okay, so my number 2, I want to do like a Pixar park, but really focus it to like that teen and under range. So really focus on like your slower rides, your dark rides, your boat rides, that kind of stuff, where they've kind of intermingled them into the parks, but have a park that's really just dedicated to those types of rides. That's very much your starter park, that's going to capture a lot of the newer content that Disney's putting out through Pixar, that's going to have that audience and those parents and that kind of stuff, and have rides that are associated with them. Because you think about some of these Pixar films that don't have great representation in the parks right now. You've got Monsters Inc., you've got WALL-E. There's some really good films in there, and new films coming out every few years.
Elemental, yeah.
That are going to need a place for some representation. And this gives them an area where it's going to hit that fan base a little bit, because it's going to be much younger than what the other parks are attracting right now, but still have that adult and those types of things, that adult presence there as well. So yeah, my number 2 is kind of like a kids Pixar park.
That's a good idea, because it would also, because right now, if you travel with really, really little kids, you might go to Animal Kingdom, but you're going to Magic Kingdom, right? Like,
yeah.
Epcot is in the last thing in your mind. Hollywood Studios is there. Like, I watch all of my clients as their kids are super young. It's here's Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom, and down here's Hollywood Studios and Epcot. And as they get older and older and more experienced, that does a flip.
Yeah.
But something like a Pixar park with a lot of like Cars and Monsters Inc. and Bugs Life and Elemental and like would be really, Zootopia would be really, really cool. And then you could even bring in like Disney Junior as part of that park as well, right?
Yeah.
Versus like the Incredibles just being a meet and greet. Like, go make some Incredibles rides, you know?
Yeah.
I like it. That's nice. Really, really good there. I'm gonna state the obvious for my number 2. Just do an entire park that is all based on Marvel. Like,
yes.
The MCU. I mean, you got to, right? Like, and sure, could you build some other things in there? Absolutely. But right now, there is no, outside of Guardians of the Galaxy, there is, and I don't know, retheme that, I guess, if you do this, but there's like no Marvel representation in Disney World, and it's bad. I mean, and maybe you don't make it Marvel, maybe you just make it Disney superheroes, because then you can branch out and you can grab the Incredibles and some other different IPs out there, and then you could argue like what makes a superhero and blah 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 blah.
But you think with the amount of content that is in the MCU right now,
right? Like,
you could do Wakanda. You could do an Avengers.
Oh my God! How cool would it be to like Pandora Wakanda, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like all this high tech gadgetry and all. Yeah.
So now you're not trying to stick Wakanda in Animal Kingdom for any reason. You're giving it a park that it actually belongs in.
Right.
And
they need to, right? I mean, even in Disneyland, I don't necessarily like the way they've done it, because that Marvel campus, it is cool, but it's not much. I mean, now I know that they're putting in another ride into that big building, because right now it's basically the Guardians of the Galaxy, Mission Breakout, and it's the Spider. That one is
Web
awesome.
Slingers.
That ride is amazing. And then outside of that, there's really not much. There's a couple of meet and greets and some shows, but they've got a really big building that they do this big show on the top of, that I know they are outfitting into a third ride.
Yes.
But like, I don't know. There's so much that you could do. And with you already kind of having the groundwork with some of these things around the world, you already have the plans in place to go create similar rides over here. So, I think a Marvel thing is an untapped presence that Disney just has not touched yet, and definitely has enough stuff to make a full park.
Yeah. I mean, they could do lands, they could do all kinds of stuff. Yeah, a Marvel area is much needed in the world setup right now. All right. Time for our number ones. And I think our number ones, man, the Marvel one would have been my number one.
Shit.
That's the Paris Marvel, again, 2 rides, 2 restaurants. But what made that really cool was, at any time, there were probably 4 or 5 characters just walking through that area. And it never felt like there was a huge crowd all the time, because it was always moving to a different thing. They had a Thor and Loki street show. They had a Guardians of the Galaxy street show. They had a character meet and greet area. They had a character meet and greet building. And then you had the 2 rides. So you had a lot going on the whole time. So it was really good. Really good. All right. So for my number 1, before we get there, if you have a top 3 idea, or if you have a better top 3 than us, put it down in the comments, put it in the chat, let us know. We take a lot of your ideas and we throw them into our spreadsheet and they come up. We've answered quite a few of our clients and our listeners' questions. So definitely do that. You can do it on the website as well. Just wherever you can find us, let us know your ideas. Okay, so my number 1 is a complete contradiction to my number 2. I want a park with all thrill rides. Give me a Universal Studios, and give me high-end coasters. Give me simulators. Give me a park that is just bang, 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 bang. You know, A-ticket rides all the way through. You know you're not going to get the little kids. Just direct to adult, direct to teenager marketing, and let's go. Because Universal is making a play with Epic Universe. Fire back. You could take, and you think about this, some of the rides that they could have based off of some of the movies, like a door coaster from Monsters Inc.
That would be wild.
Exactly. And you could do it as a simulator, you could do it as an actual coaster, but the technology that's coming out coaster-wise, whether it's 3D motion on the coaster, 3-directional motion on the coaster, suspended rail coaster, there's so much coming out right now. I mean, look what they did with Guardians. If you had a park with just that type of ride, you've got your audience, and that is a direct, hey, we're going to compete with Universal on the big ride type park. So that's my number one, is just go after them and do a big ride park.
Yeah, I mean, you take Guardians and Tron, and you've got the start of, right? But instead they said, let's just shove them in. Like, Tron into Magic Kingdom, I get it, but my goodness, like, Magic Kingdom is already overflowing, and you didn't really create more physical space, because if you're going to Tron, you're specifically going to Tron.
Yeah.
And all the other time, you're just out in the other thoroughfares.
Yep.
So you didn't, like, make more space by putting Tron in. Now, Guardians and Epcot, absolutely. Oh, and by the way, the whole World Nature walkthrough, oh my, beautiful. It is so pretty in Epcot. I am so excited about Epcot. And to your point, I applauded your number 2 because it would draw a crowd away from Magic Kingdom. I applaud your number 1 because that would draw a crowd away from Hollywood and Epcot. It would give more to do there.
Yeah.
So I am going to go kind of in a similar vein in terms of my rationale as your number 2, but I am going to make another Magic Kingdom and just call it something not Magic Kingdom, like Wishful World. Like, and essentially create a second Magic Kingdom park, except this park is going to have nothing but new IP with all of your Frozens and your Zootopias and your Elementals and your Incredibles and your Cars. Like, I'm going to grab Cars Land from California. Boom. Got it. I'm going to grab the Incredicoaster from California Adventure. Boom. Got it. I'm going to grab Frozen Land from over across, and boom. Got it. I'm going to grab Zootopia World, and boom. Got it. And I am going to make an entirely brand new hub and spoke, kind of in your idea of kind of copying Tokyo. Like, I am going to make a brand new hub and spoke. I'm going to put up the Arendelle Castle as the main thing at the end of the street. I am going to then branch out behind that into Frozen World. I'm going to go off of the hubs, and I'm going to go, here's Zootopia, and here is Elemental Park you get to walk through, and a bunch of, like, interactive things. Here's an Incredible area. Here is a Cars area. And I'm going to make an entirely new park that is going to be family-friendly but also adult-friendly. And I am just going to suck crowds into this park because Walt Disney World in general, even we can complain about the prices, we can complain about the Genie Plus, we can complain about the Lightning Lanes, we can complain about, but the fact of the matter is,
it's packed all the time.
Disney World is overrun.
Yes, it's packed all the time. Absolutely packed all the time right now.
Sunday was nuts because everybody, like, Thursday and Friday was wonderful. Saturday was a wash because of the weather. Sunday was nuts around the park because Magic Kingdom had a party. So everybody was in Epcot. Everybody was in Hollywood. Holy crap. And that was just like the tip of the iceberg for what's coming the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
They need a fifth gate. They need something, and they need something that is big. I need another Magic Kingdom. I need 20 attractions. I need to suck people in.
You need another 60,000 person park.
Yeah, I need, like, Magic Kingdom by far and away has the highest attendance over the other parks by far. I need a second Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
Like, again, call it what you want, but shove all that. You've got so much IP and that you're just dabbling with everywhere. Just shove it all in. You've got all the lands. Literally pick your lands around the world and just make a brand new park with like 5 or 6 of those.
Yeah. Nope. Makes complete sense. Well, that is our top 3 for tonight. If you do have a better top 3 than us, definitely put it down in the comments. Dylan over there, Turning Red Park with Family Guy. Family Guy's not Disney.
It is. It's Fox.
Oh, it is Disney now. So why don't they just go?
I actually thought about that. I was like, yeah, you could do The Simpsons and you could do all, but then I was like, yeah, but The Simpsons are Universal. And to your point, like, don't do motion simulators. My one knock against Universal is that 2/3 of the rides are motion simulators.
They are, but when I think about my earliest Universal trip, the ride that I always remember is Back to the Future.
See, the ride that I always remember is the Jurassic Park boat ride.
Yeah. So,
well, now
was
I remember Hagrid's. Oh
yeah,
my God!
It was
Hagrid's.
just like that was the ride that kind of changed my view of rides because I came from Cedar Point. That was my home park for years and years and years when I was little, and then Back to the Future just opened my eyes to a whole different world of rides. So
it's a new genre. I'm a whole new guy.
All right, well, that's top 3. Thanks for joining us this week. If you're sticking around, we're going to get into our Lorcana segment. So,
oh, that's what we're doing tonight? I thought we were doing we did Lorcana last week.
We did, but we were just going to jump into it again and nail it. So you got no time. So, all right, here we go. Hey, what's going on? It's Matt with the DPI podcast. Peter's kind of stunned that we're doing another Lorcana segment tonight.
Dude, I was waiting for a deep dive.
Well, so this is why I wanted to do another Lorcana segment this week, because I wanted to get into the break so that we could sit down and have those playthroughs in the break, and it made sense in our timeline on this. So
I'm just saying, you have my number, right? Like, text is a thing. All right. I can explain the game. Do you want me to go run and grab some cards?
Yes. Go run and grab some cards real quick. While you're running and grabbing some cards. Okay. So here, before you run and grab cards, we can have a quick discussion, and then we'll do a quick setup over on the other side, because I have questions and I have things flying and falling. Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna grab some cards real quick, and then just so I have some.
Okay. This is great.
I grabbed a brand new, this is one of the Floodborne decks. As you can see, all I did was take it out of the box. I haven't even opened the Floodborne deck because I've been only playing with my Series 1.
Which Floodborne deck do you have?
What?
Which Floodborne deck do you have?
I don't know what it's called. It's Steel and Amethyst, though. I don't know.
Steel and Amethyst is Tiana and Merlin?
Yeah, Merlin's on the top. Yep, Tiana. Yep, but I'm gonna move those to the side because I never ever play with any of my foils.
So I'm gonna do the same thing. I have a Amber and Amethyst first series deck that I'm gonna open. So real quick before we get into this, let's talk about what do you need to play a Lorcana match.
So I didn't grab this, so you hopefully have it handy and nearby. You need a deck of cards. The deck of cards need to have a couple of criteria. They need to be at least 60 cards large.
Okay.
You can have no more than 2 inks. So as we talked about in our first episode, there are 6 different inks. Emerald is green, ruby is red, amethyst is purple, what am I missing? Amber is the color of your energy. No, it's yellow. Then sapphire is blue and steel is silver. And the colors of the card, so the 2 things, you have the symbol right down here.
Yep.
And the entire title of the card is the color. So you can see here I have an amethyst and steel deck because I have a deck of purple cards and gray cards. You're welcome to use one of the currently 5 available decks, 3 in the first series, 2 in the Floodborn.
Yeah.
Or you're welcome to build your own. Must have at least 60 cards, must be made of no more than 2 inks, and must not have more than 4 copies of a single card. This is confusing to some because, for example, there are approximately 15 Mickey Mouse iterations. You can't have more than 4 of an iteration of a card.
Correct.
So I can have 4 Elsa Snow Queens, but I could also have 4 Elsa's Queen of Arendelle. Or Queen Regent is her Queen of Arendelle one.
Yeah.
So like I could have a deck with 16 Elsas, but as long as they're 4 different versions of Elsa.
All right. And then what are the different types of games that you can play? So you have like where you just have your own deck versus a deck of somebody else. What's like a blind draw match?
So there you're talking about on a blind draw match. Now you're probably talking that you're going to like a game store. Maybe your local game store does this, where you get X number of packs. It's typically 4 or 5 because 5 packs would put you at 12 cards per pack. But I would still, as soon as I open those packs, pull the foil and move it off to the side, unless it's like a common foil. In which case, then maybe I'd think about it. Because even like here, you go, yeah, but everybody's getting this Merlin and this Tiana. Yeah, but at some point, those Tiana cards are going to get torched by little kids, and all of a sudden, I'm going to have a super rare foil Tiana at some point in the future.
Yeah.
And they're no longer going to be publishing Inkborn decks. So I'm not going to go torch my super rare foil Tiana card by just throwing it into a game. But anyway, if it was like a common, maybe even an uncommon foil that came out of these packs, sure, maybe I'd throw that in the game. But you basically just rip open some packs, and that's your deck. So you throw away the can't have more than 4 cards, and you throw away the no more than 2 inks criteria of building your own deck that you would expect to see in what will eventually be organized tournament play similar to Magic the Gathering, where people will bring in created decks that are driven and mission built. Like, there are some cards in Magic that are worth lots and lots of money because they're just fantastic cards to put in a deck.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the same case with Lorcana, I would guess, at some point. But I'm kind of banking on that.
How many players can play at a time?
Technically 2, but there is actually some verbiage in the rule book. Here, I actually have it nearby. Lorcana is a fun 2-player game, but there's nothing stopping you from playing games of 3 or more. That would be very, very interesting to play a game of 3 or more, because one of the major things is if your character is exhausted, and we'll talk about all of this in the gameplay here in just a minute, but if my character is exhausted, it makes them available to be challenged. So I would need to be really careful about, if I'm in like a 4-player game, I could put a character out that's going to be so amazingly beneficial for me, but my character enters play exhausted, and so I could put this amazing character into play, and then people could gang up on me, and the next thing I know, I don't even have that character. So I don't know. There's some stuff there.
All right. So we start a little bit. We talked a little bit about a deck. So 60 cards to a deck, 2 inks, no more.
Sorry. Characters enter ready, but you just can't use them. So I guess they would be protected until your next turn. But
okay.
Still. So then, yeah, outside of the deck, you need this this page that Matt's got sitting here. You're not really in focus, though, on that camera, just so you know, buddy. You are still not in focus, but significantly better. Ooh, now you're in focus. So as you can see on this little simple paper comes in every of your pre-made decks, and there's really just there's just 5 things on it. There is your draw pile, your discard pile, and then there is your inkwell, and there is your kind of player area. Okay, so you can see those are labeled on there, although you are upside down. So
on the screen that's going out, it's flipped.
Okay, perfect. All right, so you can see there's cards in play and inkwell, and then there is your draw pile and your discard pile. And then in the middle is that lore tracker. I mentioned this on the first video, but we'll say it again now. The goal of the game is to gain 20 lore before any of your opponents. And again, this is designed as a 2-player game, which is likely where it shines. But there is nothing stopping you from playing like 3, 4, 5-player teams. I don't know what that would look like, but you can come up with all sorts of variants if you want.
Yeah. Okay. So we have our decks. We have our little score mats. Our game mat here. So with the cards, are we shuffling the deck? What are we doing with our cards?
You're going to start by shuffling your deck, and then once you shuffle your deck, you are going to draw a starting hand. And your starting hand is 5 cards, and 7 cards. And your starting hand, there's kind of a just deal with what you got, or there's a slightly more advanced version where you can draw your 7, look at them, discard any number of them, and then draw back to 7. Which I think even in like your early games, you would want that power and that ability, because if you have a bunch of cards that are not inkable, or you have a bunch of cards that cost a lot, there's nothing you can do.
Okay. So take this out. I did not shuffle very good.
Oh, geez, he just went straight into that. Like, I'm sitting here doing a gentle shuffle. That man just straight up bridged the cards. Although some people will tell you that what I'm doing is more damaging to cards because you hit their corners.
Okay. Now we'll be significantly more shuffled.
Okay. So,
all right.
Yeah, what next? What do you want to talk about next?
So I'll put...
Are we pretend drawing cards?
Yeah.
Oh, this is your hand?
So that is a hand.
I better, I got to make this camera bigger because right now I have you small in the corner to avoid looking at this screen and try to look at my camera so that I do a better job of being a person.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
So
how does the game end? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
How does the game start?
Okay, so you have you figure out a start player just by drawing a coin or whatever you want to do. Flip a coin, whatever. Draw a card, whichever one has a higher ink value. Flip a coin, roll a die. I have a chooser app on my phone because I'm a huge board gamer. So I actually have multiple apps where you touch the screen and then it picks somebody randomly. So whatever. But whoever the start player is going to begin their turn. So you want me to talk about a turn?
Yes.
Okay, so you get to do. Excuse me. So you start with what's known as the beginning phase, and then you go into what's known as the main phase. So every turn consists of 2 phases: beginning phase and main phase. In the beginning phase, any of your cards that are exerted. So when you exert a card, you'll take it and you'll just kind of turn it sideways.
Okay.
So the first thing that you will do is you will ready it by moving it to its upper position. Then some cards do talk about during beginning phase, so during sets.
Okay.
Let me see. I don't think I have when you play. No, when you play. No, when this character. No, when you play. Yeah, I don't have any. I also drew 7 just to have in my hand to simulate. But some cards do say set, and during set they give you some type of an ability, like maybe looking at the top 2 cards of your deck and putting one on the bottom and putting one back on top, or something along those lines, right? And then you get to draw a card. So you get to draw 1 card per turn, which is one of the biggest, I guess, hindrances or things that make the game a little tight in kind of board game vernacular, elements that make the game play tight to where you're now limited. So the cards are very limited. So if you have cards that let you draw more cards, those are very, very valuable gameplay cards.
Okay.
So I drew my card. Now the first player does not draw a card on their first ready or their first beginning phase, but then the second player would. So the first player is just stuck with their 7 and gets to play their turn. So they kind of like skip down to the main phase. So in the main phase, you are allowed to play 1 ink to your inkwell each turn, and only 1, no more than 1. So this is another thing that makes it very, very tight in terms of the game. So like I'm looking at your cards right now, and what you'll notice is that the cheapest card that you have is 2 ink. Mm-hmm. So that means that on your first turn, all you're going to be able to really do is play a card into your inkwell and not do anything else. Because you can't pay for any of your cards. Yeah. Which is where maybe drawing again. Now, I'm also holding a hand of nothing but 2s, 3s, and 4s. But there are absolutely cards that cost 1 out in your deck. So if you want to get cards into play right away, you better make sure in that draw that you do what you can to keep some 1s. So that's typically done first, inking a card, because like I have a hand of cards. I want to put one into ink. When you play a card into ink, here's what you do. You take a card and you prove to your competitor that it is inkable. So if you watch our first video, a ring around the hexagon is the card's cost. The ring around it says it is inkable. And so for you, your entire hand is inkable. However, not all cards are inkable. For example, this mouse armor here is not, because it does not have that ring around it. Yeah. And so when you ink a card, you do have to prove it's inkable, because otherwise you could be like, I'm inking a card. Well, no, you can't ink this card. When you ink a card, so let's just go ahead and grab one of yours, Matt, at random, because we're obviously not playing the game. You have 2 copies of Dr. Facilier. Okay. So why don't you grab one of those Dr. Faciliers, and what you're going to do is you're going to turn him upside down and put him in the inkwell. Okay. Upside down. Like, flip it over. Oh, flip it over. Face down. There you go. So, yes, face down. So now that card is ink. That card is never going to come back to your hand. That card is never going to do anything. It is just going to serve as your ink throughout this game.
Okay.
Okay.
So that gives me 2 ink, correct?
Nope, that's 1 ink.
That's 1 ink. Okay.
All card equals 1 ink.
Okay.
Yep. Regardless, like that card is 1 ink. Let's just maybe advance a little bit into the game now. So why don't you go ahead and grab 3 more cards and ink 3 more cards.
Okay. So 3 more cards up, 3 more cards down.
You know what? Actually, let's go slowly. So grab 1 card and put it into your hand.
Okay.
So now let's move on to your next turn, right? So at the start of your next turn, you would have drawn a card.
Yep.
Now you can choose a card to ink. So I don't know, at random or whatever you just kind of look at and are feeling.
Yep. Okay. So we'll take the.
He's not like an Yzma. He's gonna ink Yzma. Okay, and then you'll want to spread them out a little bit so that like your ink is visible.
Oh, okay.
Not your ink.
So like.
Yep. Yeah. So now you can see like I have 2 ink available. Okay. So now another thing that you're gonna do on your turn is you're gonna play a card. Okay. Now there are different types of cards. The primary card, the ones that occur the most, are characters. Uh-huh. When you play a character, you are going to exhaust the ink that it requires to draw that character, which is why, right, you can only have 2 ink types. And so you're turning ink so that you can draw this amethyst card. So I don't know, what card do you want to draw, Pascal or Dr. Facilier?
Let's just draw Pascal.
So you're going to turn an ink sideways. There you go. And then you have drawn Pascal. And so Pascal goes into your play area. Pascal does come in upright, but you cannot use Pascal during this turn.
Okay.
So now your turn would be over. You do have 1 more ink, but you have nothing that you can do with it. So let's move on to your next turn. So on your next turn, you're going to start by readying your cards. None of your cards. So you're going to ready that ink over there.
So this ink goes to ready?
Yep. And then you're going to draw another card.
Okay.
Well, you already have a Pascal in play, so why don't we just, so moving through your turn, you're going to ink a card. You might as well ink that Pascal. So now you have 3 ink available. So you could draw Maximus by using all of your ink, or you could draw Dr. Facilier. So go ahead and choose one of those, because you're going to be playing the card.
So we'll draw Maximus, and then I'll take all 3 of these and turn them sideways.
Yep, so those are all exhausted now, so you're out of that ink. But now Pascal's been in play for a little bit, right? So Maximus is not available this turn, but Pascal is. So you can do one of 2 things with Pascal. You can quest. When you quest with a character, you're going to exhaust them, and you're going to gain the lore printed on the side of the character. Okay. So you can see there Pascal is worth 1 lore.
Okay.
The other thing you can do with Pascal is you can challenge. So if during your turn an opponent has a card that is exhausted, that card is now challengeable.
Okay.
So we talked about the ins and outs of the card. You have the card's strength and its willpower. So if Pascal were to challenge, let's say I had this prince in play. If Pascal were to challenge this prince, I have a willpower of 3, which is where my damage marker would come in. So Pascal would do a damage to my prince, but I would do 1 damage to Pascal, and Pascal has a willpower of 1. So Pascal would go to your discard pile if that were to happen. Or you can quest with him. So whichever one you think you'd like to do, go ahead and just choose one, and we'll turn Pascal. And
so we'll quest with Pascal. So he goes to exhausted like that, correct?
And then you're going to move your lore counter up 1 space.
Okay.
So there you go. You are now 1/20th of the way done with the game.
Okay.
So now let's pretend that I'm doing a turn, and so now I have my prince. So let's just kind of talk through this. This is a great thing to talk about. So let's say my prince is in my deck, Or in my play area, because I got the prince into play, it would be my third turn. So this would now be going into, that was your third turn, so this would be going into my fourth turn. So I could have put this prince in play last turn. So now my prince, I could quest with him for 2, or because your Pascal is sideways, I could use my prince to attack Pascal, putting a damage on Prince but leaving him still healthy, and then wiping Pascal out of the game, which let's just say I go ahead and do.
Okay.
So I did 1 damage to Pascal, so now Pascal has to be discarded. Okay. And then whatever else I do on my turn, inking cards, drawing new cards, doing some questing of my own. But that's the other aspect of this game. If you just sit and worry about your cards in play and trying to quest, well, if your opponent does it better, they're going to have this engine built where they're gaining 5+ quest a turn, and you're not going to have enough firepower to take them out.
Yeah, yeah. And I can see where knowing kind of how to play that ratio will come into play. Like how many cards you want to quest and how many cards that you want to have back that aren't available to be challenged.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Like, if you don't use your card for questing or challenging, if you don't use that card, it stays readied. And if it's readied, it's not challengeable.
Yeah. So you can kind of wait. So if you've got a card that deals a lot of damage, let's say like a Dragon's Fire or something like that, that deals a lot of damage, you could wait till your opponent has a bunch of lower willpower cards out. Now, can you challenge multiple cards at once?
No, so if you challenge, you are single challenging another single character. You can't just say, well, I do 5 damage, so it kills that 2 and that 2 and that 1.
Okay. And then with the main part of the play, so once I bring a character into play, characters that have already been into play, can I move multiple characters to quest?
Yeah, you can do. So in your ready area, so character cards. Every character, every turn can either be sent to quest or sent to challenge.
Okay.
Because they're going to then go to exhausted, and then at the beginning of your next turn, you're going to ready them, which allows them to be available again. And again, they come in readied, but their ink is still drying, so they cannot immediately be activated, which would avoid something like let's say I have here, I'll just say, let me find one real quick. Here. So let's say I had this beast in play.
Okay.
Well, this beast has a willpower of 4. So let's say I had this beast in play and I used him to wipe out Pascal.
Okay.
Well, I know that it would take all of your Maximus to wipe out this beast. Because you would have to take 3 damage, therefore banishing your Maximus, and then I would have 1 damage from that Pascal, so your Maximus could take out this beast. But I know that right now you would have to make a pros and cons decision, and so I'm willing to take that risk that you're not going to attack this beast and knock him out. But if you were to all of a sudden paint Naveen, or actually I guess he's got 3 willpower, so that's not a fantastic example.
Well, even Ariel here has a 4 willpower.
Here, I just found a Kronk. Yeah, exactly. That Ariel, this Kronk. If you could put this into play and immediately kill my beast and not kill your Kronk, you blindside me. Yeah. So the premise is you just drew it. It needs time to dry. But in reality is I need to be able to see your tableau so that I can continue strategizing on how to do mine in a way that allows me to challenge / quest and everything else.
All right. Well, I think that gets us to a good stopping point in this episode.
there's 2 other cards.
Okay.
So there are tools. Tools go into your ready area and grant you kind of persistent benefits. And then there are songs. And songs are very, very cool. So there are action cards. And some of those action cards are songs. Here, let me just grab. I've got 2 of what I need. Give me 30 more seconds. Feel free to talk about whatever you want.
No, you're good.
Want me to
you're
answer.
Good. So no, if you're enjoying this Lorcana segment, we are going to continue with some more gameplay over the Christmas break. So Peter and I are going to get together. We're going to run through some games with multiple cameras. So an overhead shot of our playboard, and then cameras on each of us, so we can kind of discuss as we're working through the games. Again, this is actually my first time seeing cards on a mat.
Dude, this deck has no songs.
Are you sure?
I'm 100% sure. Grab a song out of yours, because I don't want to have to run and grab. I know yours has
be
songs.
our guest.
Perfect.
Yeah, character with a cost 2 or more can sing.
Yeah. So here, let me do this, and then I'll get to that. So here is an item. So it is an item. Items cannot be sent on quests, but items go into your ready area.
Okay.
And so what it says is arm yourself. If you banish this item, first of all, you do have to pay an ink to activate the item. So it does show 1 ink right there. So I have to spend an ink. And then I can banish this item. And then my chosen character gets +3 on their challenge. So they get +3 strength on their challenge. So I could have given your Pascal this cannon, and Pascal would have been packing a firepower of 4. Okay. Now, items stay in play and either give you some type of an immediate benefit or something like that where you can choose when to do it. But items can't be challenged because they're not a character.
Yeah.
They're just going to sit in play unless you have a card that straight up lets you says
banishes
banish
actions. Yeah.
Yeah. Freeze is an action, so that's the 3rd type of card. And freeze says this is very fun. So actions are immediate things, and then they immediately go to your discard once they take place. So freeze is going to take me 2 ink to play, so I would have to exhaust 2 of my ink. And then it says exert chosen opposing character. So you could have been protecting a character from me because you really want to quest it next turn and you don't want it killed because it gives you some type of an awesome benefit. So I could play freeze. I could then turn that card so that I could attack it.
Okay.
And then the other type of action is a song. So Matt has Be Our Guest down there in play. And what's cool about songs is if you look in the upper left, there's a cost. So you could just exert that much ink and just sing the song. Or all songs have a thing on the top of them that say, as Matt can read right there,
a character with cost 2 or more can exert to sing this song for free.
So instead of questing or challenging, you can take a character, exert it, and if it meets the criteria, you can then sing the song and do whatever the song says without having to spend your ink, which is huge because, as you see, Matt is 3 turns in and has 3 ink available. There were some cards that I've shown in this video that are 6s. Kronk is a 6. If I exhaust, look at Matt's deck right now. Even when Matt puts a 4th ink out, if I sing a song, that means I can't put Jetsam or Aerial or I lose the ability to do other things.
Yeah. So, but the song on this one is look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal a character card and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order.
Right.
So what you were talking about as the songs and that need for additional cards, so you're not as limited in your hand, that helps with that. I have another song up here. It's Hakuna Matata, and the action on this one is remove up to 3 damage from each of your characters. So
yeah, that's pretty awesome, right? If you get some powerful characters out there and you can kind of heal them up.
Yeah.
I have this card's cool. It is Merlin during his wizard duel, so he is in goat form. And when I play this character and when he leaves play, I gain 1 lore. So just putting him into play and then you killing him,
it's 2 lore.
2 lore. Yeah, in addition to being able to quest with him, you know. So yeah, there's just so many, and that's the thing about this. Like, all these cards are different. They may do similar things, but they're different in unique ways. And as Matt mentioned in the first episode of this, you want to talk about a massive dump of artwork. I mean, none of these cards have ever been drawn before by Disney animators.
Yeah, I mean, there's just
how cool is this little Lilo galactic hero?
Yeah.
Right? And like the takes on some of these things are not from any IP or anything else like that. Now some of them are, right? Here's like all the things I already showed you. Goat Merlin, here's Rabbit Merlin, here's Squirrel Merlin. Like some of them are straight up like, oh yeah, I remember that from the movie. But like some of this stuff, you know, same thing here with like this Prince Eric. Like that's right before he drives the ship into Ursula's heart.
Well,
you know?
And I think that goes into like the difference between Storyborn and Dreamborn characters. The Storyborn characters are characters that are what you remember from the movies. But if you look at a Dreamborn character like Maximus here, they are different.
Cinderella Knight in Training.
Than what you remember. And this is what makes this game really cool, is there are a lot of takes on these characters that aren't what you remember from the movies, that give them these abilities to do things that maybe they couldn't do in the movies. So another...
like, look at this thing. Hey, it's Dreamborn. It's hey, but man, dude's looking like a phoenix over here.
Yeah, just great artwork.
It's hey the Phoenix. He's totally a Phoenix. Because when this character is banished, it returns to your hand. Like, it's totally hey as a Phoenix, and they gave him a power that makes him a Phoenix.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just such a fun game, which is why like the people that are sitting there like naysaying it, they're naysaying it because they don't want to pay the cost to get it while it's hot. Because if Magic and Pokemon have created a place in this world, how can Disney not wiggle into that market when it already has the fan base behind it?
It's a great discussion. I mean, and I'm really looking forward to, I think one of the big things in this game is kind of learning the different cards, learning their strengths, learning what's good to have versus what's just, you know, a common card to have, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot to this that is just like, hey, how do you learn this stuff?
And I don't have this off the top of my head, so this is definitely something researchable or talkable in another episode once I have time to prepare. But each ink has something that it does well.
Yeah, so what I've been noticing in the pack openings is like Steel, a lot of the cards have higher willpowers.
Right. So exactly so they have different abilities. Like there is an ink that is very good at questing. There is an ink that is very good at letting you draw cards. There is an ink that is very good at letting you make ink faster. So being able to put more ink into play quicker so you can get those really expensive cards out faster. Inks do different things. So that is definitely something to take into consideration as you are like building a deck, which is what's cool because now there are 5 pre-made decks. And so even the game itself is playing with, well, what happens when you mix some inks that weren't mixed originally?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and even Floodborne starts getting into that a little bit because they only released 2 Floodborne decks, but they were 2 alternate ink combinations.
Right. They're not the 3 ink combinations that were in the original series, which is what I really appreciate about them. Because I am still just playing with starter decks. I'm very intrigued with what you're doing with what you just ordered us, because I think that will be very cool for us to basically do a draw tournament against each other.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I've been opening card decks since last Tuesday, so I've gotten through basically everything up until Christmas. I've already got all the other ones already opened. And I found to get to a point where you can make a true deck out of packs, it took 13 packs of cards. To get to 60
where you can even get 60 with just 2 inks.
Correct.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but the best thing that you can do if you're interested in Lorcana is go buy a 24-pack booster box.
Yeah.
I mean, because otherwise, even at great retail prices, you're still money behind when it comes to being able to get 24 packs into your hand all at once.
Yeah, yeah. So that is this week's Lorcana discussion. If you have any questions about the game, definitely put them in the comments or put them in the chat. And we will see you on the other side of Christmas break. So January 9th is probably our next live where we will start talking about more gameplay and really getting into deck building and that kind of stuff. So definitely check us out after the break, and we'll have things releasing during the break as well. So thank you guys all for joining us this week. I'm going to go ahead and get into the outro. Hey, what's going on? I am completely out of focus for some reason. That's crazy. Peter was here. I don't know why. Are you looking for us on social media? You can find us in a lot of different places. Over on Facebook is probably the easiest, at DPI Podcast on Facebook for the show page. Over PATM Disney Travel for the travel side. I'm going to get in focus here soon. If you want to talk to us on Twitter, at Disney Insights. And we always have... Thank you guys all for watching, liking, sharing, everything like that. We'll see you here in a couple weeks. Bye now.